Once upon a time, this was the world's biggest construction site. Now this city testifies to a nation's endless ambitions.
You've guessed it, I'm in Shanghai, and behind me is the Pearl Tower that looks like a spaceship that's about to burst through the heavens and head to Mars. Architecture in Shanghai has gone through a remarkable transformation over the years through its own economic prosperity. I'm on a journey to see how Shanghainese architecture has adapted to the Shanghainese culture of diversity and a strong entrepreneurial spirit.
And I'm in for some surprises, for this city is where buildings not only grow straight up, but also spread out and embrace new innovations in architectural design.
Wow.
I'm Jason Pomeroy, an eco-architect and urban planner, and I'm passionate about cities. This season, I'm travelling to a series of great cities and finding out how old and modern architecture give each destination its special character. As China's main financial centre, Shanghai always drives forward and upward. Especially in Pudong. Located on the east bank of the Huangpu River, this is a financial district of high-rises and skyscrapers. But Pudong hasn't always looked like this. Less than 30 years ago, this was farmland. Groundbreaking change came when Deng Xiaoping, the visionary leader behind China's economic reforms, stood here and declared the area a special economic zone. And the Pudong New Zone was born in 1993.
The Shanghainese skyline is almost a pictorial story of its evolution. You've got the Pearl Tower that's almost space age-like. You've got this corporate tower that has Corinthian columns that almost borders on something Western. And then all of a sudden you've got the plethora of tall buildings that are almost kind of jostling for attention, trying to kind of stretch upwards and outwards to kind of show its own majesty. And then all of a sudden Shanghai wants to find its global voice. And here we have the new landmark skyline for Shanghai.
This intersection declares loudly China's arrival as an economic powerhouse. All three skyscrapers here have been China's tallest at different times. The newest tall building here is the Shanghai Tower. At 632 meters, the Shanghai Tower will be second only to the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. But its construction is not finished yet. So for now, China's tallest building is this, the Shanghai World Financial Center. But let's go back in time to look at this one. Jinmao Tower, China's first super tall building. Work started on Jinmao Tower in 1994 upon creation of the Pudong Economic Zone. The building was to showcase Shanghai's potential as an international financial center. Completed in 1999, Jinmao stood 420.5 meters tall and for 8 years was China's tallest structure. Can you guess where this first Chinese super skyscraper got its look? I'll give you a clue. Look at the gentle setbacks, the recesses as the tower soars. The pagoda inspired Jinmao Tower, making it arguably the most Chinese in form. Even its pinnacle resembles a lotus blossom. But why? Why does Jinmao Tower look so Chinese? To get the inside story, I met up with architect Dr. Zhang Xingjiang. As a project leader, Dr. Zhang worked closely with Jinmao Tower's lead architect, Adrian Smith.
Adrian Smith thought it's very important to relate the Jinmao building to the culture and the character of Chinese and his people. The ancient pagoda, one of the precursorers of the man-made skyscraper, symbolized the center of gathering within the villages and the cities throughout ancient China.
It was always a cultural meeting point. Yeah.
As such, the analogy will be the fitting to this building.
And it's a wonderful beacon for the world as well, to actually allow Shanghai to be seen as a new financial center.
Yes.
You've also got a beautiful blend between old and new. Just look at this entrance. The Moon Gate, stainless steel, glass, modern materials, but referencing to a historical point in time. And I think it's been done beautifully.
Understated Chinese elements grace the interior. And is it a coincidence that mainland China's first true skyscraper rises 88 stories? In Chinese, the word 8 sounds like get rich. No number is luckier.
The chief designer, he thinks 2 buildings on the site. 150 building of office and another 38 building of hotel will be better. And after all,
2 buildings.
yeah, and it will be cheaper and also constructed much faster. But their response from the client, they had to be an 88-story tall buildings because Deng Xiaoping was 88 when he stood on the site and declared there would be another new center of financial and developed zone of China. And also to be rich was glorious.
To revel in the glory of Jinmao Tower, there is one place to go.
Wow.
The 5-star Grand Hyatt Hotel occupies the skyscraper's uppermost 38 stories. Rounded balconies accentuate this dramatic space. But drama does not come cheap.
The atrium could have very easily been filled in with leasable or sellable floors. Instead, you've got a minimal amount of rooms that are positioned at the perimeter to create a donut effect of hotel rooms, which means that you don't actually have too many of these rooms to be able to lease, making it very exclusive, and therefore one can charge a premium. Maybe this is actually reflective also of the Shanghainese culture. It certainly takes a particular creative spirit to be able to shape spaces like this and a keen entrepreneurial eye. If you think about Deng Xiaoping's economic reform of China, all of a sudden Shanghai is centre stage. The world is looking onto you. So you better have an architectural statement that talks a bit about the tradition and culture of China. But with success, with growing economic prosperity, does that mean that all buildings need to look Chinese? Do all buildings need to represent the Chinese culture?
I'm in Shanghai, the center of business and finance in China. This landscape enthralls countless visitors. But what is it like to live through this megacity's pulsating changes? I'm on my way to talk to a Shanghai native, born and bred.
Hi, Jason.
Chen Chen,
Yes.
how are you?
Hi.
Han Chen Chen is only 36, but he's seen Shanghai undergo a world of change.
Brilliant. We need to get...
He's also a fan of Shanghainese architecture.
So Chen Chen, why are we meeting here?
I will show you the landmark in Shanghai.
Okay.
So, what do you think about the landmark in New York,
Empire State Building,
in Paris,
Eiffel Tower,
and how about in Shanghai?
Shanghai Tower.
Is this building?
This one? Why was it the landmark in Shanghai?
这栋大楼是国际饭店，落成于1934年。它的总楼层有24层楼那么高，然后总的高度是83米。从1934年到1980年代，它一直是上海最高的高层。
Wow,
Yes.
that is remarkable. Up until the 1980s,
Yes.
this was the tallest building?
Yes. 我们小时候都听过一个故事，有关国际饭店，就是当游客路过这栋大楼的时候，他们的帽子一定会掉。你知道为什么？
have no idea.
因为这栋大楼实在是太高太显眼了，游客路过的时候，他必定会抬头看，然后抬头看的时候，帽子就掉了。
I think we take it for granted that there have been tall buildings in Shanghai for a long, long time, but for this to hold the record as the tallest building up until then, that is remarkable. Is it one of your favourites?
是的，在我小时候，它是我最喜爱的建筑。
While Chen Chen may have grown up years ago, Shanghai never stopped growing. His hometown's meteoric rise and the architecture that mirrors it thrilled him and many of his neighbours.
随着这些大楼越造越多，然后在我们这个城市里也有这样一个群体，是喜爱和关注摩天楼的。大家通过网络来分享照片、交流心得。那然后你看到那个 SWFC 了没有？ 然后我记得网络上有这样一个帖子，从这幢房子的坑基的开挖，一直到它落成，整个经历了6到7年时间，整个帖子就一直追啊，然后我们像追明星的小粉丝一样，看着这幢楼，追着这幢楼，一点点长大。
And who would not be proud of those soaring symbols of power and prestige?
That's the Grand Hyatt, isn't it?
But pride doesn't exclude a local joke or two about these skyscrapers.
There's a funny story about this being like kitchen utensils, these 3 buildings.
Yes, you know, the first one is this one, Jingmao Tower, is like a stick.
A skewer where you put meat on it.
Yes. And the second one.
That's easy. That's a bottle opener.
Yes. And what do you think about this?
That one?
Yeah.
I'm not so sure. I don't know about this. No.
Yeah. Do you think it's like a whisk?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
We could do some cooking here.
Yeah.
Okay, enough of the jokes. It's time to explore another heavyweight in Shanghai's architectural league. The Shanghai World Financial Center. 492 metres tall, 101 floors. Finished in 2008, the centre outreached Jinmao Tower to be China's tallest. But those are statistics. I want to talk elegance. The design manages to be both simple and stunningly complex. The floor plans transition from a boxy base to a rectangular middle to a slender diagonal upper section.
What we have is a square footprint that is ideal for office layouts, giving an ease of movement for office furniture. But that square footprint then transitions into a rectangle, which is ideal for hotel rooms to get a wonderful view out over the city skyline. And that rectangle then transitions further into slender floor plates for the observation deck. You could be moving around at the ground level and see this tower almost seem to twist. That gives this tower an incredible dynamism.
I'm starting at the top, at the observation deck. The design even transforms an elevator ride into an experience. An ear-popping journey to excitement. Welcome to the world's highest observation deck. Where we hover 474 metres up on the 100th floor of the Shanghai World Financial Center. So much polish, so much finish, and yet the rise of the Shanghai World Financial Center had to pause several times. The 1997 Asian financial crisis, the 2001 September 11 terror attacks. Again and again, world events pushed back the finishing date. But this is Shanghai, and here ambition and ingenuity rule. Eventually, the centre debuted in style, and even ended up taller than planned.
I can't help but feel that the entrepreneurial spirit of the Shanghainese even sort of manifests itself up in the observation deck. I mean, look, you can actually find pens in the shape of the Shanghai World Financial Center. What this demonstrates is that once you've got all of those tourists up onto the 100th floor to get a view out to the city, it's not just about going up and getting a view, it's about celebrating the experience.
Today's skyscrapers offer more than just prestige. They need identities. The Shanghai World Financial Center calls itself a city within a city. It houses offices, retail, hotels, and an observation deck. Stacking these one on top of the other makes sense when land is pricey in this part of Shanghai. But just when I thought the only way for Shanghai was to go up, I'm in for a surprise. This city can make an architectural statement even without skyscrapers. From farmland to this. Shanghai Pudong's special economic zone has evolved amazingly in 22 years. But it's not Shanghai's only enterprise enclave. West of the old downtown is Hongqiao, the other business district. The Hongqiao Economic and Technological Development Zone was one of China's earliest.
China's opening and its economic reform saw the potential for many foreign companies seeking direct foreign investment here in economic zones like this in Hongqiao. You'll need high-end residential for the expatriates to live. You've got hotels and convention centres. You've even got corporate office buildings. You've even got large retail malls that feature all of the latest high-end brands.
When economic reform came in the 1980s, Hongqiao was already a major transportation hub. The district has Asia's largest railway station and Shanghai Hongqiao International Airport. The airport's presence explains why the zone's buildings hunker instead of standing tall. But is a low profile why Hongqiao feels, well, kind of worn out? Most of these developments are only about 3 decades old, but already look a bit tired. When an economic zone can't count on height to make those statements, what can one do? Well, it can trade altitude for attitude. Sky Soho is home to a mix of office and retail space. Completed in 2014, Sky Soho is designed by world-renowned architect Zaha Hadid. This is leading-edge design, but at a low rise. It's a world of difference from skyscraping Pudong. To know why, I'm meeting Jenny from Sky Soho's management team.
When I was in Pudong, what we see is the sort of skyscraping developments that are kind of high density, but here it feels like a ground scraping development.
Because this site is just near the airport.
Okay.
So the flights may just cross this site, so have the limited height restriction. The highest point of this building cannot be exceeded 45 meters.
Buildings don't move, but these ones seem to. Inspired by the nearby railway station, the buildings suggest futuristic trains.
Wow. You know, it does feel incredibly expansive. It feels very generous, you know? These 2 curvilinear buildings that seem to be hugging this open space. And what I love is the fact that it's been punctuated with green pockets of trees and shrubs, and that helps reduce the temperatures. It also makes it feel cooler, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Sky Soho is a catalogue of surprises. It speaks of the site's limitations, but also to design innovation. Does it also say something about Shanghai's aspirations as China's heart of business?
So Jenny, now I can see these 4 buildings being interconnected by these sky bridges, and it still feels incredibly open. But how does that actually work with the Shanghainese people and their culture?
We Shanghainese are very proud of this high culture. High culture actually it comes from Shanghai, the traditional Chinese culture, but mixing with the main point from the West, open activity and creativity, tolerance and diversity.
So there you have it. Tall is only one way to evoke identity. A human-scale, low-rise, high-density building can make just as strong a statement of character. I'm almost done with my journey of understanding this incredible metropolis through its architecture. There's so much more to see, but there may not be enough time to see all that dynamic Shanghai can offer.
Thanks, Marcus. Thanks, Hilda. So you're probably thinking I've got a bit of a big appetite, but I'm going to use these ingredients to try and explain the evolution of the city. If you imagine the traditional city being low-rise and made up of different functions, different ingredients, if you will, residential, retail, office, hotel, even bits of open green space, parks and recreation areas. What we find in the traditional city is that it was actually quite sprawling. Over time, with urbanisation, densification, population increase, those plots of land were getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and the flavours that we find on the ground need to start being vertically stacked. But is that really the answer for Shanghai and many a global city? What do I mean by that? The city of the future is a hybrid of low-rise, high-rise, and even super high-rise. If you think about Shanghai, World Financial Centre being 474 metres, we're going to be looking at structures that may go even taller, up to 1,000 metres in height. And those elements will need to be sitting with other elements within the city and potentially even linked by bridges, sky courts and sky gardens to try and create this hybrid city. Shanghai is a remarkable economic success story, only mirrored by its architecture, whether low-rise, high-rise or super high-rise. And for me, I believe that the 21st century hybrid city is already taking place here.
In the kingdom of the Thunder Dragon, I immerse myself in the indigenous architecture of the last independent Buddhist state in the Himalayas. I come in anticipation of unspoiled nature, authentic communities, and the touch of a higher power. Come with me as I explore public spaces and private domains, where the secular and the spiritual are intertwined, and tradition is preserved in the face of modernity. Welcome to Bhutan, one of the happiest places on earth. I'm Jason Pomeroy, an eco-architect and urban planner, and I'm passionate about cities. I'm travelling to a series of great cities and finding out how old and modern architecture give each destination its special character. Bhutan should be of little consequence. Landlocked in the Himalayas, this little country has fewer than 1 million inhabitants. No traffic signals, no Western-style fast food, no shopping malls, and one airport serves a handful of planes. But Bhutan has a power beyond size. The terrain itself is one of astounding beauty, amplified by the magnificence of soaring peaks, verdant valleys, and gorges carved by swift flowing streams. Paro is a small town about 65 kilometers southwest of the Bhutanese capital, Thimphu. The country's only international airport is located here, making Paro the gateway into Bhutan, a kingdom where the constitutional monarchy is revered and the state religion permeates the culture.
Now, what we need to bear in mind about Paro and Bhutan, for that matter, is that it runs on a dual system, one of this perfect symbiosis between religion and secularism. And I'm on a quest to see how the architecture embraces these two ideals.
Bhutan's architecture is robust and ornate. Buildings spring up among the scenic greenery. The feel is both martial and spiritual. Masterpieces of indigenous design dot hilltops and valleys.
You know, this picture postcard moment with the hills and wonderful chalets, you could almost imagine you being in Austria or Switzerland, but you suddenly realise that you're in Paro when you see structures like this. This is called a dzong. The Bhutanese call their fortresses dzongs. A typical dzong is a massive complex of pitched roofs, ornate woodwork and sloping ramparts. Dzongs were constructed to keep out invaders, and Paro Dzong was no different. This stronghold dates back to 1646, a time when Bhutan was constantly threatened by Tibetan attackers. Traditionally, dzongs were built without architectural plans. A venerated lama would direct construction work and determine dimensions based on spiritual inspiration. The Bhutanese prize their heritage. Khenpo Phuntsuk Tashi has been promoting that heritage since 1999 as the director of the National Museum. This is such an important building that is almost like the embodiment of Bhutanese architecture and culture. And I guess the balance between secularism and religion is also something very important to the Bhutanese culture.
We have a dual system because the spiritual part is heading by the supreme head lama of the country, is Khenpo, and administration, the supreme, the head of the administrations or whatever secular is a king. So now we have a prime minister.
So I'm certainly looking forward to understanding a bit more about Bhutanese culture and Bhutanese society and how that comes through in the architecture. So please lead the way. Dzongs were once frontier fortresses that used to house garrisons guarding against foreign invasions. Beside troops, civilian leaders and monks would also reside here. Today, dzongs serve only as administrative and religious centres.
This is the main courtyard. This is the meeting place where then they can go to different directions, like a court, like a religious ceremony, and the secular administrations, the governors, to the governor's chamber. The right side half of the building belong to the monk body, and the left side belong to secular.
This tower sits in the middle of this open space. What does the tower represent? What does this do?
In former times, this tower used to be like a watchtower, guarding all the directions invaders in those days. But now we don't need. So that's a temple. Of course, in those days also used to have temples in that. So each floor you have a different temples dedicating to different deities.
The monastery within the dzong complex is home to some 200 monks. They are now the only residents of the dzong.
These courtyards, maybe they're keeping as like a private for the monk community, so that all the people going to the court or the administration block, so they can stay up there, so they don't have to come here unless they have a religious purposes. The other one is the annual festivals for 5 days. And this is the main courtyard that they use to perform sacred dance. And this is the main chapels. It can accommodate almost over 400 or 500 monks. And the upper part is the head lama, the commissioners, VIPs. This is like a VIP galleries so to witness all the festivals.
Right. Thanks to their religious role, dzongs are treasure houses of Bhutanese worship and culture. They are rich with religious artifacts, paintings, murals and carvings. The architecture is really quite amazing. I mean, these bracket details that allow the building to cantilever out almost gives the impression that the buildings are looking back into this open space. It's also rich in Buddhist references, either the lotus flower or stories of Buddha's life, the Noble Eightfold Path, or the Wheel of Life, made all that much richer by the colour that seems so stark in comparison to these white walls. After the break, I visit a farmhouse that draws inspiration from dzong architecture and a modern Bhutanese home that retains traditional accents. Paro Valley in southwest Bhutan stands 2,300 metres above sea level. Natural barriers have kept this magical land nearly pristine. The terrain demands that houses scatter and stand individually or gather in clusters. Bhutan has many marvels, but one of the most wonderful is also among the most ubiquitous: the farmhouse.
To me, this farmhouse looks a bit like a chalet with its slightly shallow but overhanging roofs. It's almost like a scaled down version of a dzong. But what I'm also hoping to see inside this farmhouse is that combination of religion and secularism. Would they have an altar place within the family unit?
Tobge is a young farmer and the master of the house. He's going to take us on a tour of his family home.
Very much. Now, the thing is, when I think of farmhouses, I often look for the animals. So where are the animals?
Due to modernization, due to changes, the government, for our health, they don't let us to keep the animals on the ground floor.
Okay.
So I've made a separate building for the cattle, which is like 50 to 100 meters away from the house.
Farmers set their dwellings near their modest patchwork fields. This is subsistence farming at its most basic. You might expect the residential architecture to match, but farmhouses here are monumental, 2, perhaps 3 stories tall. From the exterior, this farmhouse resembles a mansion, but is fitted with amenities that are wonderfully charming.
So this is the kitchen.
Yes.
It looks like the construction of the walls are mud brick. Is it mud brick?
Yes.
But it keeps the place nice and cool in the summers and really warm in the winters. I love the light coming through these little openings. And you've got a lovely roaring fire. I mean, I think that food tastes so much better when it's cooked on an open fire.
Yes.
Now, I recognise these pots, but what does this pot do?
That one is where we make Bhutanese alcohol, which we call aras. I have some. Would you like to try?
Now you're talking my language. Yes, let's try that.
So this is we call ara.
Ara. And how many percent proof is this?
I don't drink, but my friend said it's around 20 to 24%.
Thank you.
Okay, so before you have this one, since I don't drink, I enjoy my betel nut.
Now that's also very traditionally Bhutanese,
Yes.
and also in India
Yes.
as well. We see a lot of betel nut.
And this is my betel nut container.
Okay.
And it belongs to my grandparents.
How do I say cheers?
Okay, we say chapsh.
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 How it is? Good?
That is really wonderful.
I'm eager to learn more about how this Bhutanese farmhouse has survived 7 decades and serves its inhabitants today.
How many rooms are there? How do you set up this space?
In olden times, that family is considered as rich because they have more number of people working in the field.
Yes.
So that's the reason why I have like more than 7, 8 rooms.
Wow, so that's also a good sign of prosperity.
Yes.
Please lead the way.
Thank you. Wow. Some rooms are adorned with eye-catching religious iconography, painstakingly hand-painted by the owner.
Another colourful room. This looks like it has a recess. What would have been here before?
This was my altar room before, sir.
Okay.
In my family now the number of the head is going up to 30, 40. So this altar room has been too small to fit all the people.
Okay.
So I made a new building where I put my altar room.
Less than a year ago, Tobge added an extension to the existing building to accommodate a growing household. Pride of place always goes to the room housing the family altar. Here, the Bhutanese passion for colour, texture and shape flows freely.
This is my new altar room. When we build a new house like this, so we have to do some consecration ceremonies.
Okay.
So during that time, we have to call the monks, and then the other monks will be performing rituals, and 2 monks wearing these marks, and then they hold a fire sticks on the hand, and then go around the house.
Wow.
That is to chase away all the demons and all the bad lucks, all the bad obstacles from the house.
The new building also provides a larger living area that can accommodate extended family during festivities.
Tell me, what room is this?
I use it for living room. When I built this one, we won't have to get a loan from the bank, because the materials are imported from India. Our neighbors will come and help, but we are not familiar with working with this concrete.
Because this is a concrete structure.
Yes.
But still, it reminds me of the fact that we are always close to the Bhutanese culture. The wall paintings, the window frames, it still feels very Bhutanese.
Bhutanese farmhouses reflect their setting and the virtues of village life prevail.
You know, it always gives me pleasure to see traditional farmhouses from around the world. Just imagine that these have stood the test of time. Over this period, the culture, the spirituality, the practices of farmers would have adapted. And here, in this house that dates over 70 years, we see that theory of evolution taking place. The farmer has actually preserved this traditional structure and has been able to adapt it with his new addition, but it's using modern materials. The challenge, though, is when we start to think about modernity. How do we ensure that places like these can still survive?
Inevitably, the modern world has influenced Bhutan and spawned a different housing style. Tsering Tobgay owns a popular resort and spa here in Paro, and he has built for himself a residential mansion in a style that is atypical, to say the least.
I've seen a traditional farmhouse, and while I see particular Bhutanese touches here in the head and shoulder window frames and the bracket details, it still looks remarkably different. It looks very modern. Tell me a bit about how you came around with this design.
Actually, it's a modern house. From outside, you don't see much difference. Only thing is I didn't put the Bhutanese painting. I just varnish it and put the polish instead of doing a Bhutanese painting. But inside is a little bit different. It's totally, in fact, it's totally different from what a normal Bhutanese house is.
Well, I'm looking forward to you showing me around modern Bhutanese architecture.
Please, have a look.
Carrying on the Bhutanese architectural traditions, this house is built on a generous scale. But Tsering's dream house had to play by the rules, at least on the exterior. It is the interior that reveals the real surprise.
Now tell me, this still feels remarkably different to a traditional Bhutanese house. So in what way is it so different?
If you go to a Bhutanese house, normally they tend to have a lot of rooms inside.
Yes.
Yeah, many rooms. But in my case, only one room in my house, because we try to have an open concept. And I think if you look around, you can see the difference, So in this house, I have only one bedroom with 2 toilets.
Wow.
Despite the chic, modern interiors, Tsering kept to the traditions of an altar taking centre stage in the living area.
Now this looks like a beautiful altar.
Yeah, but in my case, I just have a simple one here with the Buddha statue. But I do the same thing in the morning, like I make a water offerings, burn incense, singing bowl, the prayer wheel.
But his main altar room is a standalone structure built adjacent to the house.
Why did you decide to build a separate altar house out here?
I think the auspicious month, auspicious days, they do invite monks to chant. And during that time, sometimes we invite like 20 monks, 30 monks, and it's a bit messy in one house, That's why I decided to have it outside.
Now tell me a bit about these three.
The middle one is a Buddha, and the other side is Guru Rinpoche, we call him, and we also consider him as a second Buddha. The third one is called Shabdung. He's a very great saint who came from Tibet, who unified our country, and that's why we also call him a unifier.
That's remarkable. I mean, for me, it demonstrates this dual system in Bhutan, the fact that you've got religion and secularism working in harmony.
I leave this modern property with an important realization. The spiritual reigns in the secular, regardless of external influences.
So what have I learnt about these two houses? Well, I certainly get the sense that both of them have sort of embraced the tradition. The government are trying to ensure that the tradition in architecture is maintained through planning legislation. This modern house also represents an opening up of Bhutan.
Remoteness has long made Bhutan a destination for intrepid travellers, and those ranks are growing. When we return, I attempt to find my own spiritual centre and inner peace. Along with development, tourism is booming. From receiving only 25,000 tourists in the year 2010, that figure has increased to around 100,000 today. While Bhutan welcomes tourists, the government has policies in place to prevent the environmental impact that tourism can have on the country's unspoilt landscape and distinctive culture. Tucked away in the hilltops of Paro is the luxury spa resort Uma by Como.
Here we are, high up in these wonderful hills with lush pine trees and gardens that are in abundance. If there was the sense of spirituality that one finds in Buddhism within the temple environments of the dzong, can you actually still get to that same sense of enlightenment through health and well-being through resorts like these? That's what I'm here to find out.
Uma Paro blends traditional Bhutanese architectural accents with modern design. It attracts discerning travellers who seek to immerse themselves in Bhutanese culture while indulging in the contemporary comforts of a luxury resort. Jesse Tibbett is its front office manager.
What a remarkable building. I love the fact that it's this blend of sort of modern architecture but infused with these particular Bhutanese architectural and cultural elements. Tell me, how did this development come about in the first place?
When we did the redesign of the property, we wanted to keep as many of the aspects of Bhutanese architecture intact. And so as you can see, the beams in the ceiling, the details of the windows, etc. That's obviously the interiors have a modern refinement to them, but the exteriors as much as possible as the original design. So in this main building, we have 20 rooms and suites, and they're all centered around the central courtyard.
Okay.
In traditional Bhutanese architecture, the courtyard is an important feature that often occupies the core of the structure. It not only allows for natural light and ventilation, but also facilitates social interaction.
So courtyards within Bhutan are often featured in the fortress, in the dzong.
Yeah.
And they are the central place for gathering, for valley celebrations, for mass dances, for meditation for the monks, etc.
How is this space used today?
In a more modern approach, we use it as a romantic destination for honeymoon couples to have a private candlelit dinner. In its grandest event, we use it as a location for wedding celebrations and parties. So it's kind of a repurposing of an old space.
The resort's Bukhari restaurant occupies a circular, treehouse-like pavilion with a panoramic view of forest and valley. The name is derived from the traditional Bhutanese stove that stands as a centerpiece in the restaurant. This circular structure may have been a modern addition to the existing property, but the prevalence of the timber beams and the traditional window forms pay homage to Bhutanese architecture. The 9 villas of the resort are strategically located to ensure maximum privacy for the guests. They nestle in the pine forest in which the property is tucked away.
So here we are at the Como Villa, our signature villa on the property.
Now, what is the material used in the timber? Is it cedar or pine?
The Como Villa is built from pine. The exterior walls, traditionally in Bhutanese architecture, you would actually do rammed earth. So they set a frame and they ram the earth and pack it tight. Okay. Here we've done a mud plaster on the outside with mud paint, so it gives kind of that earthy tone.
The exclusive villa sprawls over 3,200 square feet and opens up to breathtaking views of rolling hills. True to Bhutanese architectural style, an open-air courtyard with its own fire pit sits at the heart of the villa. The Kingdom of the Thunder Dragon means to keep things that way, preserving a rare balance of spirituality and secularism, and welcoming strangers to a distant and deep experience of life.
One thing I'm going to certainly take away is the importance of this structure here, the dzong, this fortress that would look over the district. Just look at the architecture around you, and you can actually see elements from this building being embodied in these various other dwellings. Whilst we have heritage over this side, over here we have the new city of Paro. And despite such modernity, it is still fiercely protective of its own cultural identity. Perhaps that is the secret of its success, the fact that secularism and spirituality doesn't need to actually have a dividing line between the two, they can live in symbiosis. And perhaps that is why there is the secret to the architectural success, and that is why the people are so happy.